Hello! Welcome to the show. To the Beard, Scruff, and Burns show.
Yeah, big show.
Yeah. Is this like the host seat? Is that how that works now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about Stage 3, Phase 3?
Phase 3, Marvel's
Phase 3. So, it's a pretentious name for just announcing movies, but okay. So, you have the list, Chris, correct?
I do indeed.
So, I guess we'll do the same thing as
Shall
we did
I
last
read
time.
them off?
Yeah, just read them off so we can at least all be on the same page.
Alright, here we go. 2016 we have Captain America Civil War and Doctor Strange. 2017 we have a whole bunch. We got Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Thor Ragnarok, and the Black Panther. 2018 we have Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Captain Marvel. Not Shazam, but Captain Marvel.
Actual
Captain Marvel. The Inhumans, which I'm really surprised about. And then we end it all in 2019 with Avengers Infinity War Part 2.
I don't know how I feel about that. I guess we'll jump around a bunch because there's a lot to talk about. But in terms of like big budget things, like Age of Ultron, we know about in terms of like what it's going to be about, and sort of that's the sequel
because it's the near future. We've got a clear vision of what's going on.
And I know there were rumors when they announced that there's going to be like a Civil War movie.
There is.
Well, now we know, but it's Captain America. Like people were initially thinking like, oh, are they going to do that in the Avengers story? We're going to have all the Avengers fight. But instead, I think they're turning Civil War, like the event, into basically just like a conflict between Iron Man and Captain America in some way.
Right. They're boiling it down to like the most essential part of that story,
the bare bones of
which was Captain America and Iron Man had different views on
something,
on protecting the world, which is, I assume, what the movie's going to be about.
I'm assuming it's not going to be superhero registration based on the way
I don't think so.
Well, it can't be because in this universe, everyone knows who Iron Man is and everyone knows who Steve Rogers is.
Yeah, everyone seems to know who everyone is, and they're all either any other heroes that we know as superheroes from the comics, they're agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So it's not like they need to register.
No one has a significant secret identity to reveal, and there's not enough heroes to make a big fight between heroes interesting.
Right. So my opinion on that is they're giving Captain America, who is like the most boring of the Avengers, they're putting him in these situations, Winter Soldier, Civil War, that make his movies more interesting and people will want to go to them.
Yeah, well, it's weird because now, after seeing Captain America 2, so like Captain America, like the first Captain America was just straight origin, like we're gonna make, we gotta
punches guys.
Yeah, we gotta introduce Captain America and bring him to the present so he can be in the Avengers. Then they go, which is all happening in the comics. Right. Then now with Captain America 2, it was almost like a sub-Avengers movie. Like it was like a very large scale of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an entity, and like the world as like sort of, Thor. This is dealing with Thor things, and Iron Man is dealing with the Iron Man movies are a lot of personal Tony Stark things.
Right.
They're more localized, but Captain America 2 is very like big picture. And I think that they're just turning Captain America, like you said, which is a bit more boring. It's hard to do a solo Captain America movie. They're just making it sort of like, in between Avengers movies, we'll have these smaller events, but still like big picture events in the Captain America movies.
Right, and even when you look back at Winter Soldier, that's a solo movie in title alone, because you have Black Widow, you have Nick Fury, the Falcon, what's her face? Agent
Carter.
Agent 13. You have.
She count?
I think she counts.
And
you have what's her name? Hill.
Oh,
Maria Hill.
Yep.
So
you have multiple heroes.
You had a team movie within the standalone superhero movie.
Yeah. So Captain America is like not going to be standalone, basically.
Yeah, that's the way it seems to be going with Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War.
We already know he's going to be in it.
Right, and we know that Chadwick Boseman is playing T'Challa, the Black Panther, and he's going to be in Civil War.
Yeah, which is going to be weird. Like I don't know who else they're going to like spring on us. Potentially even more heroes.
I think they might be talking about Hawkeye being in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They already did it. They already had SHIELD agents in Captain America, so it would
They fit in that story a little bit better than they do
any other story.
Maybe Iron Man and Thor.
I don't think it's a bad idea overall, though, because Winter Soldier was awesome.
Right.
No.
And it did a really good job of, like, kind of moving from, like, the individual to, like, we're kind of setting up for the next Avengers movie
Right.
again. But while at the same time, you still had turmoil with Steve Rogers, where he sees, Buster Barry? The Winter Soldier, what's his name? Bucky, yeah. That's his
Buster
name. Babs. Yeah, so you have good, like, individual Captain America story where,
Right.
you know, for a while he didn't know if he could trust anyone because he was told not to trust anyone.
People telling Captain America things. Who they just trust.
Yeah. But then you have the Winter Soldier who, spoilers at the end of the movie, is not, dead. And then he shows up at the end credits, in his with his baseball cap to hide himself, looking at himself in the museum. So, like, there might be a future for Bucky.
Oh, he'll probably be in the next Captain America.
Yeah.
In some capacity, yeah.
But so that's what I'm saying, is that, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a very big pusher for, Avenger things. And Captain America is, the first Avenger is a very important Avenger. So, like, I didn't dislike anything about Winter Soldier. So if they want to use Captain America movies to, like, push all S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, why not?
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think it's an interesting development.
Yeah.
And they're maturing out of, like, solo movies for origins is fine, but then solo movies are hard to do as people, as things move forward, because you're going to want to do more.
In the greater
Right.
Marvel story.
You're going to want to do more complex, interesting things, because like people are tired of seeing isolated hero movies. That's what we'll be getting for years before Marvel. And the thing that Marvel does as an alternative is saying, hey, we can put Iron Man and Captain America in the same movie. That's cool,
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a complaint about people after the first Avengers, is that, like, some of the individual movies, like Iron Man and stuff, they were saying, like, why doesn't he just call his buddy Thor and then he can get down here and fix all this trouble,
Well, that's what I like. I think at least with Thor, it felt very like it was, Earth was involved, but it felt like bigger, like, Thor's shit is going on, and like it's more Asgard focused, which is fine. But he's so unique in that way because he's literally an alien from another planet. So you can have that larger picture, which is good. Is going to be interesting because like they established a sort of Asgardian universe in the Thor movies, which I don't know how well it's going to mesh with the sort of galactic universe of Guardians of the Galaxy, because technically they're all in the same universe, but
technically, I think.
But the way they portray it in Thor is much more rigid than like the galaxy as in Marvel universe has.
I think it's they're like representing a type of alien. Yeah, I think that's what is going on there.
Because I'm assuming eventually those two, I think Guardians of the Galaxy will not forever be separated. I think eventually they're going to come together.
I think that's
they got it.
That's the idea.
Yeah. So
especially with the ending of Phase 3 being everything that's happening with
Avengers,
Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet,
which I want to talk about right now.
Yes, Thanos. He got his most screen time in Guardians of the Galaxy,
which I thought was cool. I was not expecting that at all.
No one was expecting.
Yeah. And they kept that under their hat really well then, because there was no leaks about that. And I guess people, only like comic book people obviously know about Thanos and the importance of Thanos, but I think like a lot of people were confused at the end of the Avengers, like who's that guy? And then like you need some sort of establishment of who Thanos is and what sort of threat he poses before you get to the actual movie where he's the big bad guy.
Right.
So I think they're going to slowly over time sort of introduce. Like I think they sort of started to tie all the Infinity Stones together. Which is that confirmed, or are we all just pulling that out of our ass?
I think it's confirmed.
Okay, so like
I think they
okay, we should talk about what that is. So basically, I guess the idea is that all the big, powerful things that we've been seeing in these different Marvel movies,
the ether from Thor to Dark World, the Tesseract from Captain America and the Avengers.
Loki's scepter.
Loki's staff.
And then the purple.
The orb from
Infinity.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, the purple.
The purple thing.
Yeah.
Purple
Well, I
thing.
mean, which is
We'll call it the purple.
which is cool. Which is cool.
Purple drink.
If that is the truth, that's kind of cool that they've been like slowly introducing them separately. But I don't like the fact that they all are like the same thing, which is very contrary to the Infinity Stones being each having its own unique powers. Like they're not all just power. There's only one power stone, and the rest have very unique influence. And
Yes,
I feel
but
like they're
for
just
the-
treating all the stones the same.
For the movie universe, it's more entertaining for people to be like, look at that thing, and like every single person that has one, it just explodes and it's like crazy.
Yeah,
So-
so it's not even like a Marvel movie problem. It's sort of like an every action movie problem because there's always the thing that they're trying to get,
Unlimited
and then the thing
power.
The MacGuffin, yeah.
explodes probably, and
because we want it to.
and then friendship brings them together.
Nah,
You could, I mean, you
But
could.
I'm saying, like the Infinity Quest, where Thanos like gathers all the Infinity
Right.
stuff. That's a really good. I almost like that. That's like very close in quality to the actual Infinity Gauntlet storyline,
Right.
because you see, Thanos going around in his trials of getting each stone, and each presents a different problem. They're not all just like got to fight the big bad guy who has the Power Stone, but it's like time. The Time Stone has its own challenge, and the Mind Stone, the Soul Gem, is hugely important to the whole plot. So I'm curious how they're going to integrate all that.
I'm not as familiar to the comic story as you are, but I think you can argue that even though it's definitely not done as separately as you say the stones are, you could argue that like Loki's staff like isn't like makes him super powerful, and even the Tesseract it didn't really give anyone uncontrollable power. It was just kind of like used to open portals and stuff.
Yeah.
The purple drink, as we're calling it, and the Aether, yes, they added like power to those who had it. But the other two, you could kind of argue, were fairly separate.
That's true. I mean, they might elaborate more on that in the future, which I'm hoping they elaborate more on in the future. I would just be kind of disappointed if they all sort of had the same power instead of having their own unique abilities, because that's the whole idea. Is like they each have they govern a different aspect of reality, and when you put them all together, you could literally control reality as a whole, which is what the Infinity Gauntlet does.
We'll see how it comes out.
Yeah, no, we're just speculating hard right here.
There's lots of
time,
future time. To
Yes, as we
get
saw.
more acquainted with those
But
things.
I guess the bigger question is ties into a trend that's been happening with movies in general is sort of the split. Like we got to have part 1 and part 2 of a movie.
I like it better now than in other places that I've seen it.
Yes.
Because the other places that I've seen it, it comes from like a source material that is one entity, and they're splitting it in two because we need more Harry Potter, we need more Twilight, and more Hobbits, and more. What's Katniss?
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
That one really bugged me because I'm like, those books are pretty equal in length, and I think the third one has like the least actual like things happening. And it was like
I'm not familiar.
What I was trying to say is, do we think that a two-parter event? So basically, they're going to make 4 Avengers movies, one of which is like the same story spread over 2 movies.
Right.
Well, let's not limit it to 4. We haven't seen Phase 4.
Well, I'm saying, we know what we know.
Right.
You know, we
But
know
there
what's
will
going
be
to happen.
4 times I go to the movie theater.
Yeah,
to see
I've already seen Avengers 1. We pretty much know the gist of what's going to happen in Avengers 2, at least like the story. We don't know the specifics, but we know who the protagonist is and like what it's going to be self-contained in some way. Then we have these 2 Avengers movies that are already announced and are going to be related directly.
Right.
So do we think that's a good idea? Like, I don't know how long each is going to be.
I think the first Avengers was 2.5 hours.
Yeah. If they have like 2.5 hours, if like each part does like 2.5 hours, and you have like 5-hour epic story, I think it could be really cool.
I think it could be amazing.
Yeah, and you could really get in depth with the whole story.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing. The Infinity Gauntlet story is only like 4 issues, like the proper story.
Yeah.
Right.
It's only 4 issues, so it's not like a super long story.
Well,
But you could really like do a lot.
But there is a lot because
going
of
on,
because of the sort of implied existence of like the outer space heroes into the Avengers movie, the Infinity War movie. It's sort of maybe you got to explain all that, set up that story.
I guess it's something I haven't thought about yet, but logistics. Like, okay, assuming that we got a bunch of new heroes. We got Black Panther. We're gonna have Ant-Man,
Doctor Strange.
Who else was announced?
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
This is another interesting thing. Captain Marvel and the Inhumans come out after Infinity War Part 1 and before Part 2.
Right.
So let's assume now that they're not going to be heavily involved in the story.
But I'm thinking that because they are in between, that there has to be some significance.
But then I'm assuming they're not going to play a huge part. Like they'll probably be involved in the second part, but you know, like our core is probably still going to be the Avengers that came out in the original Avengers. But I'm saying scalability in terms of like characters. Do you think it's going to work? Because a lot of people were afraid about the Avengers when it was coming out that if you have too many heroes, you're going to have hero overload. It's going to be too much going on.
I don't think that happened.
Which it didn't happen. But yeah, I think a big part of that is Joss Whedon being, you know, like writing a story that worked. And,
usually capable of handling an ensemble cast.
Yes, is my point. Like, but is there going to be a breaking point where we're going to have just like 20 heroes all on screen at the same time?
No, I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think you overestimate the importance of like a Thor and a Black Widow and Hawkeye. I think maybe they're not going to kick the bucket, but I think like they're going to find ways to like kind of be like, all right, Thor. I think like Thor Ragnarok might like kind of end Thor's story.
That's another thing we haven't talked about is
phasing out heroes.
The rotation. The Avengers of itself, the comic book, has always rotated heroes. Even like we said last time that they were like, Hulk, you shouldn't be part of this. Like almost immediately in that story.
And notice that in the Phase 3, the Hulk does still not have his own movie because screw him.
Hulk should not have his own movie just because he's not interesting enough.
Because he's a horrible person.
You just hate Mark Ruffalo. That's
not true. I hated the Hulk before Mark Ruffalo.
What did you think of the Incredible Hulk?
I like the Incredible Hulk. I think Edward Norton is the best actor.
So you're just actor.
No.
Racist.
You can't be actor racist.
I just made that up.
But no, I think the Incredible Hulk is okay. I don't like the first Hulk. I don't think anyone.
No one likes the first Hulk. Yeah.
But I never liked the Hulk as a character in general, because even in the comic books, he's like part of the Avengers for a day, and then they're like, all right, we're done with you. At some point, I believe it's the team, the Immortals, they like kick the Hulk off Earth. They literally are like, all right,
it's the Illuminati.
Is it? I don't remember.
The Illuminati.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, we've had enough. You're
Black Bolt's part of the Illuminati.
You're not allowed on Earth
say.
anymore. And then that starts the whole like World War Hulk.
That's a good story too.
And then like wherever else he goes, they're like, all right, we've had enough of you, and they kick him off too. Like no planet wants this guy.
He's kind of a giant douche.
He's kind of a big giant green douche.
So that's another thing we mentioned briefly that the Avengers movies could be leading up to the existence of the Illuminati, which is a group from the comics who protect the world in secret.
Yes.
So it's Tony Stark.
Yes.
Mr. Fantastic.
Who doesn't exist.
Who doesn't exist.
So that's 1-1.
Charles Xavier doesn't
Doesn't
exist.
exist.
For sake of anything.
In the universe.
Namor.
Namor doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist either, probably. Yeah. Black Panther.
So we're going to have Black Panther.
Yeah. Black Panther.
We're going to have Black Bolt, assuming we get it.
Black Bolt.
Yeah.
Captain America was on that group for a little while.
Was he?
I think so.
Not when they did Planet Hulk, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I think it was just the 6.
He was still there.
I think it was just the 6 originally. But so we have 3 of the main Illuminati, and then, they could introduce Namor.
Right.
I guess
think they could.
I don't know.
I don't know how interesting that would be, but I guess they could. And then, the idea of the Illuminati is that you have a representative from each of the groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Each of the
so you have
types of heroes that you have.
Yeah. So you have Black Bolt represents Inhumans. Charles Xavier represents mutants.
Right.
You have
Black Panther.
Black Panther represents his civilization.
Wakandans.
And then you got the Atlantean
Atlanteans,
and then you have
Avengers.
Yeah,
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark
Being
sort of
Thanos.
representing general people, human.
Right.
Tony Stark just showing up wherever he wants because he's awesome.
He's really rich.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an interesting idea. That would be a really mature story, like
That would
after
be very
years of stuff. being
Right,
done.
right. I think that is a possibility, especially with the Civil War thing they're doing. It's like,
Which is ambitious.
well, if
Ambitious.
Tony Stark can't work with Captain America, why not, talk to these other people, see what they think?
It's certainly, I think, a possibility in the farther afield than currently. And yeah, like Chris is saying, who knows what Phase 4 will hold?
Right.
Who, honestly, we just got a bunch of names and, basic kind of
Do we
plot
have
devices.
any?
Do we, we don't know what Marvel Phase 3 holds. I think that, we know Ultron is a bad guy, but I think Avengers 2 is going to do a lot more than we think it's going to. I think the first Avengers was just kind of like, all these guys are put together and they're full of Loki and it's okay.
Right.
I think there's going to be a big reveal in Avengers 2. Something crazy.
Consequences that we don't yet know of, which will
Right.
have serious
I think
implications. in the future.
it's like the Avengers one is, like a ride, basically.
Right. Well, think about it.
You can't go on the ride a second time. It's not the same.
Right.
Second time.
We saw Thanos for the first time at the end of credits of
Avengers,
Avengers 1, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Okay, getting away from some of the bigger Avengers-y things, what do we know in terms of actors, for the closer movies? Do we know, who's portraying?
They have not announced Doctor Strange.
So we still don't know who Doctor Strange is going to
Right.
be portrayed.
It's-
Black Panther is
Chadwick
Chadwick.
Boseman.
Yep.
Okay. So why do you think they're holding Doctor Strange so
I think it's
secret?
because of they don't know who's playing him yet.
So literally,
They
they
said that they had a Q&A after they announced all these movies, and someone asked, "What about Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange?" Because that's the newest rumor.
that's the rumor, yeah.
And Kevin Feige from Marvel Studios goes, "If we knew he was playing Doctor Strange, we would have announced it today."
Yeah, that is what he said.
So they're probably just not 100% sure either.
Right, I think it's in the final.
It being still worked on.
He is a busy man.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of movies. Sherlock is coming up again
The fourth Sherlock?
for fourth season. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why did the fourth one come so soon, and why did the third one?
Oh, it's coming in 2015.
Oh, okay. Well, 2015. That's too close.
I mean, later 2015 though.
No, but the gap between season 2 and season 3 of Sherlock was years, wasn't it? There was a significant
I
amount
think
of
it's
time.
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was significant.
I think it's at its peak popularity right now.
I guess I don't know. I stopped watching it, but
That's another conversation.
yes. Anyway, so I knew there were so many rumors surrounding Doctor Strange that I wasn't sure if they actually announced it. Fair enough. Do you think Benedict Cumberbatch would actually do a good job?
I think he's.
I know he's a great actor, but
He
in
is
that
a great
role
actor.
particularly.
I think he will do his best at playing the character. I don't think he's the type of actor to just phone it in.
Yeah.
We had other names who were possibilities of Doctor Strange. Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix.
I can see Joaquin Phoenix.
I could see Joaquin Phoenix. I could see.
I think that
But
might
the thing is with Joaquin Phoenix, he'll either do an amazing job at it, or he'll totally phone it in. Because I feel like he's that type of actor.
work. Yeah.
I like him personally. I do like his movies, but I don't think he's ever been in a blockbuster like this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's his type, which is possibly why it didn't come through with him.
Fair enough. I think it'll just be like Paul Giamatti in the new Spider-Man. Really, that's
Just,
phoning it in to
super-
the extreme.
Super corny.
Yeah, just be as schlocky as possible.
That was fun though.
He
No,
said,
yeah,
he said in a trivia, or in an interview, that he was like, "Oh, I knew this is the type of movie where I could just go as ridiculous as possible and it would work." And he was like, "And I had a lot of fun with it." When you see the movie,
I guess as long as he had fun.
Yeah.
That's what I picked
as
up.
long as Paul Giamatti had fun,
That's all I care about.
that's all I care about. My movie.
He should have just been like a Russian gangster in John Adams. Too.
The next movie I see that doesn't have Paul Giamatti in it, I'm gonna be like, hey, what did Paul Giamatti think of this movie? I'll be like, oh, it's fun. And I'll be like, alright, it's a good movie. Done.
Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.
It's like a section of like a newspaper, like where all the critic reviews are, and it's just like, did Paul Giamatti like this movie? And like the big white space that says yes or no.
Yeah. It's just like,
yeah. And that's the entire review. That's all I need to check.
I was like, alright.
We can all go home, guys.
I don't know.
Which one of these movies are you most looking forward to? Let's start with Mike.
Okay, well, it's hard to say. I'm really looking forward to the sort of idea of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, but I have no idea how they're going to do it because it's so far afield. So, like, I'm excited about that idea, but I don't know enough specifics to like make it a solid choice. Probably Guardians 2, just because like I was so pleased with the first one, and I really want to see more of the cosmic stuff, just because that's what I'm interested in. So I'll just say definite Guardians 2. I think will be really fun, and tentative sort of Infinity Gauntlet story because I like the idea, but I have no idea what's going to be. In terms of, I guess, pessimistic sort of thing, I just don't. I think Ant-Man is stupid, so I'm just gonna say that.
My turn.
Yeah, go
All right. So I'm really excited for Captain America: Civil War because the last Captain America movie was so good, and it's the same writers and directors on this new one. It's the same people. I don't know. I think they can pull it off again.
Yeah.
And to surprise everyone with a great Captain America movie, like
Oh, yeah.
that was fantastic.
Pessimistic about anything?
No, but I think I'd like to call it now because I called it when they announced Phase 2. I called that Winter Soldier would be like the best of those movies. Guardians was hard to call back then.
Yeah, we didn't know anything.
We did like the day before Guardians. I was still like, oh no,
It could really fail.
There's a raccoon running around.
But I'm gonna call Thor Ragnarok being a big surprise.
Ooh.
They have a lot of potential with that story.
Ragnarok.
They have low expectations from Thor: The Dark World, which got like good review. I thought it was a good movie.
I like that
No,
movie a lot.
not bad, but like the Thor solo movies, like I like Thor as a member of the Avengers,
Right.
but his solo
Right.
movies are sort of just because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
It's just like fantasy beating up bad guys.
Yeah,
Not
I think it's inherent in his character, so like not as bad as the Hulk. But
No, not at all. But I think because of the low expectations of Thor and the huge like potential of Ragnarok, I think that could be a big surprise for everyone.
still keeping Loki in play because he excites everyone.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get more Loki.
Yeah.
We have to.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
To you.
So, I think I am most excited for Avengers Infinity War Part 2. I'm specifically going to say Part 2 because I just, I want to see, 20 people trying to fight Thanos and him just being like, bah, bah, and just, fucking beating people away.
He doesn't even have to do that. He just has to.
Oh,
snap
yeah,
his fingers
I don't know.
and,
I just want to
disappear.
see, 20 people trying to fight Thanos and doing a terrible job. And then eventually...
Just bolstering how cool Thanos is.
Yeah, I just want insane carnage. That was something... I love the first Avengers, but, I was disappointed that there was no, I'm really into, I don't know. I'm really into, big bad guys. And there really isn't one in the Avengers. Loki's just he sends the army, but, then the Hulk just, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
See,
that was kind of anticlimactic. But
Right, I like big bad guys, which is why I'm excited for Age of Ultron. So, I think seeing Thanos at the end is going to be incredible. The amount of build-up that they have for him, they're going to pull it off, because if they don't, people will start a mob.
Commit suicide.
But
They're
they're
going
going
to watch Avengers 5.
Yeah. But I think they're going to pull it off.
collectively,
I
everyone's face melts.
think
like the guy in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And I guess what I am...
People will still go see the movie.
Yeah.
It'll be on the news, and people will still
With no
go.
faces.
Yeah,
they're
no
just
faces.
well, I still
There's
thought it was
like
pretty
skeletons.
good.
Paul Giamatti had fun. So. I guess I don't really know anything about. I know a little bit about Black Panther, a little bit about the Humans. I don't know really anything about Captain Marvel, and I really like Shazam, and I think he's the real Captain Marvel. So I guess I'm pessimistic about that. That's all I got to say about that.
Too many Captain Marvels.
Too many Captain Marvels. And the Captain Marvel that they're using for this one isn't even like the original one. It's the female one,
the
which
the new Captain.
Not sexist, but I just don't know. I don't know. I know even less about her than I know.
Right.
Just uncertainty.
Just uncertainty. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But either way, I'm looking forward to. I don't know
all this stuff.
All
really.
of it. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah. Even the questionable stuff is probably going to be.
It's probably I mean, just look at Guardians of the Galaxy. We're like,
well, like. If you think about like the range of these movies, like the best ones are like Winter Soldier, Avengers, Guardians, right? And the worst ones are like Iron Man 2 and 3. And like even those aren't that bad.
No.
So if it fits within that range, I think we'll all be happy.
I think we're pretty solid.
In fact, I think it's like I'm so like I love that I see it, but I hate it because I'm like, oh yeah, Avengers Infinity War Part 2 in 2019, and I'm like, it's 2014. And I'm just like,
look at there's 8 movies in
but
then and now.
But I want that one.
I just want Chris is like the kid who like flips to the end of the comic just to read this
just to watch like the
he doesn't care about all of that like plot build up. He just wants to fight guys, punch each other at the end, you know. I can see why you're like, man, still so much here. Everything's coming together.
Yeah.
All right, I guess on that we'll end. And then next week maybe we'll talk about something that's not superhero movies.
I think so.
Yeah, we'll switch it up.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, probably devolve into Star Wars or something. But, you know.
There's no new Star Wars stuff.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
There's always Star Wars stuff to talk about.
That's true.
All right, so